Hi, I'm Gavin Correa, Managing Partner at LCA and host of the free accounting clinic for entrepreneurs at Yes. For business expenses, a CRA official definition says that deductible business expenses are certain costs that are reasonable for a particular type of business and that are incurred for the purposes of earning income. Business expenses can be deducted for tax purposes. Personal, living, or other expenses not related to the business cannot be deducted for tax purposes. In this video, I'm going to share some tips on what you need to know when claiming business expenses in Canada. Expenses that are particular to a type of business are usually evident and generally deductible for income tax purposes. They include cost of goods for resale, outsourced labor, and salaries to employees. Most other expenses that are not necessarily particular to a type of business are generally classified as indirect expenses and are usually targeted for government audited purposes. The most commonly scrutinized for audit purposes are car expenses, meals, and home office expenses. The reason for this is because there's usually a personal component to these expenses, and the taxpayer is required to separate the personal component of an expense from the business component of the expense. Only the business component of the expense is deductible for tax purposes, and the taxpayer is required to provide proof. Car expenses include fuel, insurance, maintenance, repairs, license, registration, and lease expenses, or if you purchase the vehicle, amortization expense of 30% per year of the cost of the vehicle. You're entitled to an expense of the total of these expenses less the personal portion, which equals the business portion of the kilometers driven. The business portion is calculated by the kilometers driven for business purposes, divided by the total kilometers driven for the year. Business purposes means drives for client meetings or any other business-related activities. This calculation must be supported by a log maintained by the taxpayer. There are many apps available to track your business kilometers driven, or you can track manually or on a spreadsheet. The CRA and MRQ accept most forms of logs as long as you have documented your business kilometers. Meals expenses are deductible at 50%, but only to the extent for business purposes with a client, potential client, or business colleague. The allowable expense includes food and beverage, but always to a reasonable extent. The expense is not allowable for meals alone for a singular person unless you or an employee are traveling for business purposes. Home office expenses are allowable if you require the business use of a workspace in your home as long as it is your principal place of business and use the space only to earn business income on a regular and ongoing basis to meet clients. You can deduct part of your home maintenance costs such as heat, home insurance, electricity, and cleaning materials. You can also deduct part of your property taxes and mortgage interest. To calculate the part you can deduct, you calculate the workspace divided by the total area of your home. Other expenses include promotional gifts and gift cards given to clients and customers are tax deductible and should be documented with the names of the recipients. Gift cards for restaurants or food and beverage are only 50% tax deductible. Internet and data costs are valid expenses. Mobile phone and landline charges are deductible, but only for the business portion. You must determine a personal percentage and prorate this amount against the total. Interest and bank charges on your business bank accounts and credit card charges related to a business credit card are deductible. Any expense for business is deductible. The ultimate test is always that the expense is reasonable and for the purposes of earning income. If you need any additional help or guidance, speak to a Yes Business Coach. And for more tips on how to run a small business, check out the other videos in our series.